Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I thought I'd turn my attention back again to the issues facing Labour in terms of presenting clear policies in order to win back support. As far as any can make out, Labour don't actually have any policies. Of course, that's not actually true, but it is certainly true that they are not being clear or loud enough about what they are. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Labour are in a complete mess, you may have noticed. Starmer is getting it in the neck from all angles, and I mean all angles, and everyone wants to make it about the thing that they want to make it about and will use all sorts of spurious reasoning to justify it. And, as I say, I recognise that I will say essentially this is because of hiding away from Brexit. And of course, that is what I consider to be the most important political issue in the UK right now, though that isn't the focus of this video. Maybe this weekend and you'll be able to judge for yourself whether my logic is spurious or not. But those who wanted Starmer to fail from the start are sharpening their knives and getting ready to back Blairite Andy Burnham for some reason. Maybe it's because he's a Brexiteer and against proportional representation. This, I suppose, is the ideal leader to keep Labour in opposition. Of course, once you accept the notion that you don't have to be an MP to be Labour leader, which is a non-starter, really. But if you do that, then you raise the spectre of the real Blairite. Because there are some people increasingly talking about the actual Blair coming back. I'd have thought it was better all round to look forwards, not backwards. But unfortunately, the most vocal tribes in Labour have their sights fixed firmly on their rear view mirror, the rose-tinted mirror at that. But disagreements, depressing. So let's look at what people agree with. Let's look at that. Labour are not presenting any policies right now. That's what people say. That's what people agree on. What do Labour stand for? That is the question that we need to not be a question. Naturally, they can't adopt detailed plans, detailed policies, because you can't, any detailed policy requires some spending commitment. You can't announce your spending commitments this far out from an election. But not all policies are a matter of funding as such. Some are a matter of prioritising what funding there is. Some can even be of a more philosophical nature. A clear policy doesn't actually even need to be clear. It must just appear to be clear to the public. Like, get Brexit done. So just as with Corbyn before him, Starmer has said, for example, that outsourcing for public services should be reversed. Insourcing was what it was called during Corbyn's time. It's what it's called. And the policy has been reiterated by Starmer. The problem with this policy, however, is you cannot use it as your main campaign policy or even one of your campaign policies. It doesn't fire the imagination of the public. Even if Labour were to shout it from the rooftops, people would go, oh, that's what you stand for, is it? All right then. The thing is that many people don't care how public services are financed. They just want to know that they're going to be. So people like myself will argue that you are wasting public money by paying for everything that we need, plus a hefty amount of profit on top, when we could just do it all in-house, much more efficiently, much more cost effectively. And you know what? You get the same service, or better service actually, really, I'll come to that. And the profit never actually needs to be added to the price tag. It goes back to the Treasury, you see. Besides, we don't actually get the service that we used to when it was managed by public bodies. So the classic, for example, very obvious, is cleaners in hospitals, the privatised part of the NHS. When it was all done in-house, the cleaning was top notch. Otherwise, you got to kick up the arse from the matron. Nowadays, it's basically a quick rub round. That's what it is. A little dust around, little move the big heavy thing around the floor, and that's it, done. But capitalists will argue that actually you can deliver these public services more efficiently with free enterprise. And although some of your taxes, yes, is going to the profit of a professional layabout, you still get the service for a good price. And the thing is, argue as much as you like, and I sometimes do, I just have done, lots of voters don't have an opinion either way. So a policy like this, though I would say essential because it's in the national interest, whether voters understand it or not, is not going to win an election. It's not going to raise your profile in the public. So it can't be one of your campaign policies. Stick it in the manifesto, of course. Answer questions about it, of course. But don't stick it on the side of a bus. To win an election, you need to bang on about a small number of key policies. Boris Johnson in 2019 had 2, got a massive majority on the back of 2 vocal policies. Tony Blair had 5. More than that, I think, is probably getting beyond what most people could be bothered to remember. And this is what was essentially wrong in 2019 with Labour's policies. Individual policies, of course, were popular. And actually, well, even in 2019, come the general election, I was even willing to go along with the Brexit policy. At least it was going to get us another vote. It was a nonsense. But you take Brexit out of it, bang on board with every single one of them. Every single one of them was right, I would say. But the way they were presented caused people to mistrust Labour's capacity to deliver. For example, the news is agog with more plans for this Conservative government to nationalise another bit of our railways. A common Labour policy and one of Corbyn's main ones. His supporters say this proves that he won the argument, but this is to confuse winning the argument with being right. You don't win an argument by being right. You win an argument by convincing people you are right, even if you are wrong. Boris Johnson won the argument. That's why he has a huge majority. A bit huger since Hartlepool and running the risk of being even huger still in June because Labour won't get on board with the Progressive Alliance and they're risking losing another seat, as well as failing to give themselves the chance to take a seat off the Conservatives. Not that Labour would gain it, but at least it would take it off the Tories. And what's more, Boris Johnson won the argument so well that now he can take another socialist policy, bit of rail nationalisation. And remember, this isn't the first time either. Don't talk about this as if this is the first time it's happened. David Cameron did it as well. They didn't shout about it. But the thing is, Boris Johnson can do that and claim it as a win as well. Because he won the argument. And he's still winning the argument. Perception is everything in politics. Being right or wrong, nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. Convincing people that you are right and that your opponents are wrong. Substance is absolutely nothing. It's depressing, but that is the reality when you do not have a free press that does their job in holding political parties to account without fear or favour. The British media stink of both. So what do Labour need to do? I would say talk about a small number of key policies. No scattergun approach, a small number of key policies. The rest of them, you're doing a speech, you write them down, you put them in a manifesto. A small number of key policies that you bang on and on and on about. As we get closer and closer to the election, you bang on about them louder. And what do those policies need to sound like? You might think, well, let's pick the 2 or 3 most important policies. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would argue that they need 3 characteristics. Firstly, they have to be different to what the Conservatives will offer. This is crucial because Labour keep falling into the trap of a lesser offer than the Tories. Take the NHS, for example. Labour makes spending promises to improve the NHS. The Conservatives outbid them and promise to do even better and cut taxes while they're at it. Easy for the Conservatives to do because they will not honour their promise. Labour mean what they say, and so they are outbid every single time. So the key policies need to be ones that the Conservatives won't even pretend to offer, like rejoining the EU's customs union single market, hint, hint, or nationalising the railways. Oh, actually, no, can't do that. Because, like I said, the Conservatives just nicked that policy again. That being said, it is still official Labour policy. Starmer's reiterated it again, just like it was with Corbyn. But it's not as useful as a campaign policy because it doesn't mark you out as being fundamentally different from the Conservatives. Labour say, we're going to do this. And people will say, well, the Conservatives are already doing it. We're going to do it better. Are you, though? Of course, nationalisation as a general concept could be. Because even though the Tories have been nationalising a few things on the sly, they don't like to brag about it. Goes against their free market principles, you see. Or maybe abolish tuition fees and reinstall a proper living grant for students studying courses of national importance. You know, nursing, engineering, for example, if you go and do those courses, you won't have to take any loans out. You'll have everything paid for you, something like that. The second characteristic is that they need to be something that is easy to see would make life better for people. Now, this could take the form of policies that the Conservatives fudged, you know, poke at it and make a promise that's clearer in scope. For example, the Tories promised to build 40 new hospitals. So, as I've been talking about recently, we now know that that means knocking down existing hospitals and giving their construction company mates the contract to build the same hospital back again. So what about making a promise to create a net increase in hospitals and that the planning would begin the day after the election? In one stroke, you get to highlight the fact that the Conservatives swindled voters with their misleading promise. And you also get to make the promise in a more credible way, because there'll be no fudging with you. You'll say it'll be a net increase. There'll be more hospitals. There'll be this many more hospitals at the end of the Parliament than there were at the start of it. Stick it on a card again. And that's just an illustrative idea, but I believe it does have to be something that people can definitely say will be an improvement. So a policy that people don't really see being better, like I said with the public services. Do you privatise them? Do you keep them in-house? People are going, well, as long as we get the services, I don't care. Make it about something where people say, well, this will be a definite improvement. You know, scaling back on outsourcing doesn't tick the box. It's an economic means of delivering an improvement rather than the improvement itself. It has to be the improvement itself. Then the third characteristic, and I think this is absolutely crucial, it has to be explainable in a line, preferably a catchy line. Ideally a slogan. Remember Boris Johnson's campaign, get Brexit done, level up the country. They were brilliant, ambiguous enough to mean different things to different people and vague enough for the Conservatives to be able to claim they delivered on them, even if nobody gets what they expected from the slogans. But above all, they were catchy. You could remember them. You would remember them. They also fulfilled the first two criteria. If you have a policy that is a clear departure from what your opponents would dare to promise, and it's something that's enough to get swing voters on board with, but you can't get it across in a simple line, don't bother. And I think this is what Labour are lacking right now. You know, what is that catchy policy? Because there are policies. There are stated policies. There are policies being stated all the time. They started in January. Just people don't know what they are. And then you could look at it. You could say, is it reasonable to expect a leader only 1 year in to have all of this in place? I don't know. Maybe it is unreasonable. What I do know is that it is needed. Whether it's reasonable or not, it's needed right now. If Labour were united now, wouldn't care, wouldn't matter. The main prize is the next general election. If they lose the odd by-election, it's not good. But if they were united and they were focusing on the end goal, it wouldn't matter. You could afford setbacks on the way as long as your long game was proceeding. But leading Labour is not a marathon between general elections. Never has been. It's an obstacle course that can knock you out of the race at any time. Labour need to not only start shouting their policies, but also make sure they meet these three tests. Or maybe someone else has a better idea. But I'm going to be honest and suggest I don't think any of those people are advising the Labour leadership right now. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.